We bought 100 cars from one guy, and this is one of them.
If you want to see more car content like this, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to visit our website to explore our curated inventory of luxury, classic, and investment grade cars. So we just got this 67 GT500 back in, and I say back in because we've owned this car a few times before. It's always a pleasure to buy a car back or take one on trade because we know what the car is, we know what we're dealing with, and we know the guy that's selling it to us. So initially, we bought this car out of a 100+ car collection. The gentleman wanted to sell off the collection. He was getting up in years, so he sold us his first tranche of cars, about 1/3 of his collection, kind of his least favorite cars. And then as he got older again, he sold us the second tranche. Now he had sold us 2/3 of his collection. Again, picking from his least favorite again, keeping the last group of cars until he died. He had already set up with his family that he would sell the cars to us and that they would deal with us and make their lives easy, but he wanted to keep the cars around for the rest of his life. So then we sold the car to a gentleman in California and we got it back on trade. Again, always a pleasure. We know exactly what we're dealing with, we understand what the car is, and we want to make guys' lives simple. Wants a new car, trade it in, save the tax. So 67 rolls around, and this car is highly anticipated. I mean, you think about it, the 65, 66 GT350s, just enormous success on the racetrack and commercially. The Shelby brand is huge at this point, and they come out with this, the 428, the GT500. By the time they roll out this car, I think they've really figured out the cool factor. I mean, you've got these Shelby badges everywhere. You've got the hood scoop, you've got the hood pins, you've got all the scoops, the rear ducts, you've got the roll bar, you've got the tack, you've got, all the cool stuff on this car. A great set of options on this car. Factory dark moss green car, factory black interior, factory 4-speed. You've got the Magstar wheels, a great look with the large letter Speedway tires. Engine bay is gorgeous. Fairly early car. This car is 977. One of the ways you'd tell this is an early car is because you've got the rear brake ducts that actually have ductwork in them. The later cars, it was just for show. Well, it's called ductwork, but really, you see here in the wheel well, it's just a hole with some air going there. But it would certainly at least cool down the tire and cool down the drum a little bit. Show you guys the engine bay here. Great quality engine bay here. First thing you notice on one of these cars when you lift up the hood is hood's fiberglass. Again, with that 67 styling, you've got the hood scoop, you've got the fiberglass hood, fiberglass nose, tough looking front end, fiberglass end cap, great looking rear spoiler. It just ticks all the boxes in 67 for a tough looking unit. So looking in the engine bay, car looks super correct. You've got the Shelby number here, and these things were hand stamped. And then you've got your Shelby tag over here that was stuck on top of the Ford VIN, but those numbers are correlated when they put these on. They took note of that and then matched the Shelby tag to the Ford VIN. And of course, you get the big 428 Police Interceptor, the V8, and in 67 is the only year you get the factory dual quad carb setup on one of these things, giving you a conservative number of 355 horsepower and 420 foot-pounds of torque. You gotta remember, for the late 60s, this thing is a monster. And of course, the center high beam's just a real iconic look. I wish I was around in the 60s so you could see this thing coming at you down the street for the first time, and just knowing by the set of lights that the car coming at you was a GT500. You get in, you sit down, your eyes are immediately drawn to the real wooden wheel, made in Italy. Just a great looking setup here. The holes drilled in the spokes, the Shelby Cobra GT500 in the center. Again, part of me really wishes I was around in the 60s. So great quality interior on the car. You've got the 4-speed, and then of course, your iconic look, roll bar with the shoulder harness here. I've never actually put one of these things on. See if we can strap in here. I don't know how safe these things are, but feels like I'm wearing a parachute. That's great. Great looking gauge cluster here. You've got the tach up to 8,000 RPM, speedometer up to 140 miles an hour. And then you've got the lower pod here with your oil pressure and your amperage. Look out over the dash. You can just see the one hood pin. You can see the scoop, you can see the stripes. And then for all you youngsters out there, this is how you're turning on the high beams in this thing. So you look through the mag stars here, you've got the disc brakes peeking out at you, power brakes on these cars, power steering on these cars. And you gotta remember these 67s, these are the last cars that are built at Shelby in California. After that, Ford takes over, the production goes to Michigan. Big difference between, you know, a full-on, one of the most successful race shops in the world to an assembly line. It's part of what makes these 67s so special. So now, we've got to ask ourselves the question, do you need a car like this? No. No one needs a fully restored 67 GT500. No, you don't need a car like this. But man, if you want one of the coolest, toughest cars Ford and Shelby ever built together, yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, you want a 67 GT500.